right now we're going to be welcoming onto stage 27-time world champion in billiards and snooker, who's also recipient of Padma Bhushan, Padma Shri, Major Dhyanchand Khel Ratna and Arjuna Awards. Ladies and gentlemen, truly an honor to have here with us today. Give it up, a huge round of applause. Make it thunderous, Mr. Pankaj Advani. Huge, huge round of applause. 27-time world champion in billiards and snooker. An honor to have you join us today.
Am I audible? Yeah, it's good. First of all, thank you so much for having me here at this advertising convention, OAC, and all the sponsors and people who made this possible. I know this is the end of the day, so the energy may be a little low, so I'll get right down to my speech. A journalist asked me this question immediately after I won my first ever snooker tournament at the age of 11. What would you like to become when you grow up? I first answered a businessman, because my dad was one. And as an afterthought, I added, I'd also like to become world champion one day. A seed was already sown in the subconscious mind. The game of billiards and snooker has always been an absolute joy for me. Today, I've been asked to speak about the vision I've set for myself to become world champion in Q sports. But how about we look at this word vision differently? While we all have our long-term plans and goals, my approach was to constantly improve as a Qist without worrying about the results. As a raw, inexperienced kid, all I wanted to do was look forward to practicing, learning, and competing with the best. I never imagined that a hobby that I was so passionate about would eventually turn into my profession. I wasn't desperate to win. I was hungry to excel. At the age of 16, I was given a wildcard entry into the Asian Billiards Championship in Bangalore. I was so close to winning the title, but ended up losing narrowly to a more seasoned campaigner. The silver lining was that the ability, skills, and knowledge were all there. I just needed more experience and wisdom, and that was the takeaway from that heartbreaking loss. I'm sure we all know what the difference between knowledge and wisdom is, right? Knowledge is knowing tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. My theory was simple. Gain experience, improve my competitive play, and focus on the process more than the outcome. And somewhere in this journey of my pursuit of excellence, I won my first men's world snooker title at the age of 18. Mind you, such an achievement would not have been possible without an amazing support system. People say there are no free lunches in today's world. I'd like to differ. My coach, Mr. Arvind Savur, who I'm eternally grateful to for making me the player that I am, has never charged me a single rupee for his priceless coaching techniques and unwavering support. Plus, I used to literally eat free lunches at his place. My brother Shri, who introduced me to the game and has been my mind coach and sports psychologist for over a decade. My mother, who has raised me as a single parent after I lost my dad at the age of 6, has been a constant pillar of strength and never pressurized me to be one-dimensional, especially when it came to my academics. In fact, she was happy that I took up the sport as it kept me away from other distractions that youngsters at my age would be subject to. But I did make a promise to her that I would maintain a balance between studies and the sport. As a result, I finished all my homework and assignments every single day before 6 in the evening to free up 3 hours that I would use for my practice with an uncluttered mind and uninterrupted flow. Fortunately, my school, the Frank Anthony Public School, and my college, Sri Bhagwan Mahavir Jain College, facilitated my absence from classes and even some exams, lucky me, so that I could practice and participate in tournaments unhindered. I often get asked by people, how is it possible to win so many world titles? In fact, I was just talking to Rajiv, Apurva, and Professor Runia, and I said I'm going to, talk about this in my speech. Yes, 27 world titles is the number right now. I'll tell you how. After my first major, thank you. As much as I did not want to make this about me today, I've been asked to speak about my journey, so excuse me if I'm blowing my own trumpet a bit too much. But after my first major international snooker victory in 2003, my coach wanted me to stick only to snooker, but I had other ideas. I wanted to hone my skills in billiards and excel in it as well. My coach and other senior players thought I'd gone nuts, as the norm was to focus only on one game since the approach and techniques were so different from one another. But I was adamant to redefine the concept of specialization. Why should it be confined only to singularity? Both sports are played on the same table, but billiards is played with 3 balls, snooker is played with 22. I knew I had to devise unique techniques and adapt to each and every format of both disciplines. It wasn't easy, but that's the risk I was willing to take. 18 months later, again I'm blowing my trumpet here, I went on to win the IBSF World Billiards titles in both the short and the long formats. The first time anyone had achieved that feat. Since then, I have truly believed that I could compete at the highest level in all formats of billiards and snooker, giving me maximum chances to win multiple world titles. Hence, I guess, 27. The point I'm trying to make here is, only when we step out of our comfort zone can we realize our true potential and experience real growth. You know, when I was a kid, all the players would make fun of me because of my lack of height and size. Chotu, Tingu, Tiny Tot were some of the names they'd call me. This really annoyed me, but it also fueled me to use my anger and let my cue do the talking. Many a time, you will be offended by what people may say to you. My advice is, please do not retaliate in the same kind. Let your actions and work speak for themselves. Nobody's life is a bed of roses. All of us must have faced failures in our personal and professional lives at some point or the other. However, in terms of growth and learning, failures are a very important part of our quest for success. It drives us like nothing else. Let's take the example of a tennis legend. His name is Roger Federer. How many Federer fans here? Wow, that's quite a few. I'm sure you know part of this story that I'm going to be talking about now. After winning 16 Grand Slams, Federer was unable to win a major tournament for 30 months. He realized that tennis was becoming more of a power and fitness game, that his younger competitors were getting sharper and stronger. So what did Roger Federer do? He went back to the drawing board, reinvented himself, and made changes to his game. And then, the magic happened. He went on to win his 17th Grand Slam title, which also happened to be his 7th Wimbledon triumph, equaling Pete Sampras's record at that time. Failure did not break Federer. It only made him a more complete player. This is the type of attitude which separates the best from the rest. Talking about attitude, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, followed the careers of their successful alumni for over 2 decades. They were actors, directors, CEOs, entrepreneurs, and so on. And they were asked to rate the importance of attitude, skills, and knowledge in their journey. Do you know what the results were? Skills and knowledge combined got 15%, while attitude got a whopping 85%. Psychological research has shown that people with a positive attitude and an optimistic mindset are least likely to get depressed. In my career, there was this one title that eluded me for years, the Asian Snooker Championship title. While I'd won much bigger events, I was not able to get over the line to win this particular championship. I'd lost all 4 finals that I'd played in, to the point that it became even embarrassing to answer questions from the media on why I was falling short. In 2019, I'd reached my 5th final, and as usual, I was trailing 1-3. Added to my misery, I had 103 fever. At the mid-session interval, the tournament director came up to me and said, "I'm sorry, Pankaj, you have to go through this again." I replied, I said, "The match isn't over as yet. Picture abhi baki hai, mere dost." When I went back to the table, I thought to myself, what's the worst that could happen? I'll lose another final. It's not the end of the world. I anyway have high fever. There's no point putting pressure on myself to win this. And from then on, I played with a devil-may-care approach, telling myself to hell with the result. As things unfolded, I ended up winning the next 5 frames in a row, and with that, broke the jinx for good. From that day, I learned to never, ever, ever give up. So friends, in conclusion, I'd just like to say that whenever you're faced with a tough challenge that tests your character and attitude, just tell yourself, never give up, always show up. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Pankaj Advani, sir, center stage, please. We've got a beautiful memento for you, and to do us the honors, we request Mr. Vasant Jante to kindly join us on stage. And we've got Mr. Rajiv Raghunath. The mic, please. We're going to open the floor to a few questions. This is a live session. Please raise your hand like it's conventionally done, and we'll have a mic brought on over to you.
Yeah, this is your chance to hear from the champion himself, and from a champion who has won 27 world titles. If you add up all of the world titles from the various other sporting disciplines, I don't think they all add up to the number of world titles that Pankaj has won. So here's your chance. And besides, when you look at his journey that he has just narrated, I'm sure every one of you would have seen those challenges in your own space, right? You can really know, you can hear it from Pankaj, and you can actually field your questions to Pankaj if you right away. Yes, Fabian.
Hi Pankaj, that was truly inspiration. Thank you for doing that with us. It being an out-of-home conference, I'm tempted to ask you a questions that is slightly related to out-of-home. Actress Danielle Brooks, actor Matthew Perry of Friends fame, and many celebrities have gone on record saying their secret desire had always been to see themselves on a large billboard. Have you ever nurtured the desire to see yourself on a billboard? And did it eventually happen?
Sorry, can I just see where you are? Sorry, I don't know where the question. Yes, lovely. Actually, when I was listening to the panel discussion earlier, there was, I think, a point that Apurv made. I don't know, it was Jayesh or Apurv, where they said they'd worked with life insurance. And whenever I saw this ad of LIC that was on billboards, it was of a person playing snooker in a waistcoat with all the colorful balls on the table. And every time I used to drive past it, I used to think, why can't that be me? Well, it's not a secret anymore now, because I'm conveying what I truly feel about being on a billboard.
Hi, Pankaj. A lovely journey that you've had, very, very inspirational for all of us. What we learned, rather I learned from you that never give up and keep on fighting it on. And that's how you have, got 27 titles up your sleeve. So from here on, what are the plans for the future and how do you plan? I'll add 27 more. Do you plan that out or what do you do for the future?
So initially when I was writing this speech and working on it, I actually wanted to change how I look at the word vision. I'm not saying that I did not have long-term plans and ambitions and goals, but my vision consisted of just improving day to day, building my body of work every single day, bit by bit, and eventually leading me up to the stage where I could perform at the highest level, get glory for the country, win titles, and eventually, if you ask me at today's stage, in fact, Rajiv and I were just talking about it, how do I now engage more people, get more people to follow the sport, make it more television friendly, even start a series of events? That would be my vision for the next 5 to 10 years. But when I started off playing the game, trust me, I did not know what that vision was. And it's okay not to know. I would just like to share this with everyone sitting over here today, that it is okay not to know where your life would be or what it would look like 5 to 10 years from now. As long as you're passionate about what you're doing at the moment and you're building that body of work day by day, bit by bit.
Hello. Hi, Pankaj. We would like to know the secret of your physical and mental fitness.
Physical, I'm not sure, but mentally I have a couple of things that I could say. Look, the body and the mind is all connected. And while, if any of you, I'm sure some of you have played billiards and snooker, right? So anybody who's tried their hand at the sport, I'm sure pool, billiards, snooker, recreationally, I'm sure many of you have played this game. We underestimate the importance of physical fitness because if you have a sound mind, you have a sound body. If you have if you're physically, feeling fresh and you're able to function at a very high level in terms of your productivity, in terms of, being aware, mentally it definitely impacts you positively. But I also feel that this game is about setting a stationary ball in motion. And this sport and golf are the only two sports where you set a stationary ball into motion. Every other sport that involves a ball is basically you reacting to it. So it's either coming to you at a certain pace or with a certain spin, or the trajectory is completely something that you have to deal with without thinking too much how you're going to respond or react. But the challenge in our sport is that there are hundreds of thoughts. So the mind becomes very, very important when you're playing a sport like this. And I'm sure it works for many, many professions where we find it difficult to control our minds. And sometimes it's okay to let those thoughts just come and go. Our minds are like unchained monkeys, They keep jumping from one place to another. It's a thought-producing factory. But we should not pay attention to each and every single thought that our mind produces. And that's the key. The moment you know when it's the right time to strike, you strike. It's okay to think negative because, you can't eliminate all those thoughts. It's just as easy to think positively as it is to think negatively. But we should have the right or the power or train ourselves to choose the more positive thoughts to improve our productivity and our performance.
Hi, Pankaj, me again. The question I have is not linked to your sport alone. The question I have is to do with the audience here. We have a mix of people who are marketers, there are media owners, there are agencies. And when all of these groups come together to work for a brand, it is really a partnership that works. while we would have seen you win the titles, I'm sure there is a partnership that was working behind you to make that happen. What are, let's say, the key elements of a successful partnership, according to you, that helps create champions? And I think that learning we can apply in creating champion brands ourselves.
Partnership in terms of having a team?
Having a team together that is aligned to one goal, which in your case would have been helping you or making you win the titles.
I think core values are something that's very important. Now, I'm a firm believer in fate and in destiny. Just to give you a little background of my life, we were in Kuwait for the first 5 years of my life, and because of the Gulf War, our lives were uprooted and we had to shift to India. Now, I wouldn't have been exposed to Q Sports had my father chosen another city to settle down in. For example, Mumbai, where most of our relatives are. It so happened that he loved the weather of Bangalore, and it still continues to amaze us and keep us in good moods and spirits. But I found my snooker club very close to my house. But the point here is that even my mother, she realized that, you know what, it's keeping me away from several distractions as a youngster. And I think sport builds character. Now, I know this may, even my speech, I understand that it's, the audience has got a mix of people coming from different fields and departments, and maybe they will not relate to everything that I say. But if the core values are strong, if the objective is one, and that is to build a champion, to facilitate, to support, and to encourage, I think then all the efforts are focused towards that one goal for you to, enable to achieve it. But none of us over here can achieve things single-handedly. And as long as we're grateful to those people who have been part of our journey, who have enabled us to and pushed us to reach those great heights, we will always maintain a healthy relationship. In fact, yesterday I had the privilege of meeting the owner of British Biologicals, Mr. V.S. Reddy. And he was meeting a friend of mine who had helped him when he had come to Bangalore in 1992 to set shop and, eventually open a business. And that simple deed that he did for Mr. Reddy, which helped him grow so much, and today he's, got the most expensive car in India, and he's made it big in life. Even till date, he has that attitude of gratitude. And I think that's one of the keys to ensuring that you build a good team around you and be grateful to all the people who have supported you to make it happen.
Hello, am I audible? Yeah, hi. You had mentioned just before this that in the game of billiards, you are actually playing against a stationary ball. I play golf, and it's quite similar to that. So you have the ball, and you're going to strike a shot. And at times, I feel that I had played so well just the day before, and today I'm just not getting it. The shots are just not going there. And when I'm about to strike, I know exactly that my mind has wavered, and I'm not going to do well this time. So there must have been times in your journey when when you're about to strike, you're about to take that shot, that you have that split second that mind goes away. How do you get it back? Because at times when I just tell my coach, "Aaj nahi ho payega, today is not my day," and he says, "No, in game, in sport, you can't do that. You have to get your mind back into the game." So how do you get your mind back into the game?
That's an excellent question. Something which is completely sports related and typically related to our two sports. Firstly, whenever anything bad happens to us, so I was also going to talk a lot about failure. Of course, I did mention Roger Federer's story, but I would like to use the word undesired outcome, because failure is very harsh. Right. Yes, I understand. To make things more dramatic, we say, "Acha, he's a failure," or "This movie was a failure," or "This project, for example, was a failure." But it was an undesired outcome. Now, there are only two ways to react. One is accept it and move on and say, "Listen, we're human beings at the end of the day." And I think that's the key. The other is obviously to just beat yourself down and say, you know what, aaj mujhse nahi ho payega. You know, I'm not good enough. The problem is, we attach ourselves to the result, but we are not the result. The result is just an occurrence on that particular day. Day after, the result may be completely different. But we have to allow ourselves those mistakes. And off late, what I've been practicing is, and thanks to my brother Shri, who's a sports psychologist, is that we allow yourself to make that mistake and accept it because you're human. You know, recently Roger Federer made a speech. I'm a huge Federer fan. Sorry if I'm, bringing reference to him and his views ever so often. But he said that even if you play your best point, which makes it on the top 10 of ESPN's playlist, or even if you play your worst point, it's just a point at the end of it. And then you're on to the next. Apparently, even the top-ranked tennis players win only 54% of the points that they play throughout their careers. So it's okay to mess it up once in a while. But the key is to accept it and come back to the present as soon as you can and try and delete it from your memory. It's not easy. The hangover is there. But once you come back, you have to tell yourself it's a new stroke in golf, for example. For me, it's a new visit to the table after my opponent has scored. And you secretly hope that your opponent doesn't punish you too much when you make those mistakes. But that's all part and parcel of competing. But I will just say this, that over the course of my career, I have found that success for me has been more qualitative than quantitative. Now, I know the world measures success in terms of numbers and statistics, which is fine, which is great. But it's also a state of mind. Very often, if a sales trainer isn't doing well, we offer him, sales training. We get a sales, we send him to a workshop. Or if a team isn't doing well, they attend a management skills workshop. Or if an athlete isn't doing well, we ask him or her to practice harder. But more often than not, it's a shortage of our resourcefulness, our creativity, our determination, our passion, and our drive that hinders us, not the shortage of resources. In today's day and age, we have access to so many resources. Yes, it's not easy, but there is a way if we really look for it. But we don't focus so much on our resourcefulness, which is why we end up beating ourselves or we become more harsh on ourselves. But if we truly work on that aspect, on developing that state of mind where, am I in a resourceful state? That's when we achieve true success. And that's what I've tried to develop over the years.
Hi, Pankaj. I follow you and I follow the sport too, both in the World Men's and Masters. I just wanted to ask you one thing. Say Robertson or Trump or maybe Ronnie, whom I call the god of snooker. Are there anything that you have inspired from him? It's not just the game. I'm just talking about something in the life from them that you have brought it.
Yeah, I mean, we have so many inspirational figures, and as obviously a snooker and billiards player, I've watched videos of some of the top players when I grew up playing this sport and tried to imbibe their qualities and how they approach the game. And one thing I've learned is that they are so positive in their approach, in the sense that they get on with the game. They do not dwell on their mistakes that much. Their body language is mostly on point, and they're able to approach the game in more of a rhythm, which is what really sport is about. It's about getting into that rhythm. But if you continuously start and stop and take breaks in between and don't, play in a flow, and this goes in any field in life, when you have that rhythm, when you get into that rhythm, things become a lot more, not fully effortless, but they become a lot more easier to, accept and then digest and move forward and improve.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think everybody really enjoyed the Q&A session as well. Thank you so much, Rajiv. We're going to request Mr. Vasant Jante to kindly join us on stage to present the memento. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause as we thank Mr. Pankaj Advani. Sharing your wisdom, your insights, And a takeaway, being consistent. A huge round of applause, please.